Welcome inside our New York studios once again. Brent Stover alongside Kevin Carter and Cardale Jones. Cardale won a national title at Ohio State in 2015. Will Howard did it last year. Julian Sayin trying to do it for the Buckeyes this year. And life's got to be good, Cardale, as we take a look at some of the great performers individually here in week number 2 on Saturday. Life's got to be good for Julian Sayin because you had that one circled all off season, #1 Texas. You go out and get the win, and then you got to relax a little bit and fill up the stat sheet in week 2 against Grambling State, and he did just that.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely one of my top performers this week, especially still being a young quarterback and his experience when it comes to being a college quarterback at a place like Ohio State. But the great thing about this, he's surrounded by so many playmakers, and he was finding them early and often all day today. Well, really in the first half, because that's all we saw of him. At one point, he was 16 for 16 with, and then ultimately ended his night 18 for 19. So when you got a guy like Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate, and the list goes on of all these dynamic playmakers around you, and you walking into your second start at home versus a Grambling State, I'm pretty sure you had some favorable odds to put up some great numbers to boost your confidence to start getting ready for some Big Ten play.
I mentioned just kind of big picture, how much confidence he must be walking around with, because in the end, he was able to out-duel Arch Manning in week 1, get the win, played better, I feel like, in that game, but through 2 games, he's nearly 80%, 216 per game, and look at that, 5 passing touchdowns, only 1 interception, taking good care of the ball. Talk about a guy that is growing into his role, and he's 2-0, so a lot to show for it through 2 weeks.
Yeah, for sure, taking care of the ball, but the stat I love to see is the yards per attempt at 11, right? And that means he's taking shots downfield. He is not afraid to let his playmakers go out there and be playmakers. Mm-hmm. And you see versus Texas last week, I know Grambling State, it's hard to put in perspective of how much better he can get in this game. But even going back to the Texas game, he wasn't afraid to take shots downfield. And he was very smart about it.
And he's got the weapons. All right, another top performer, the quarterback for Illinois. Little bit of a sluggish start in week 2 offensively on the road against Duke, but in the end, Altmyer and company put up 45 points. He threw for 296 and 3 scores in the victory.
Yeah, one of my favorite return and starting quarterbacks this past season, Luke Altmyer, was a guy that was highly sought out. People thought he was going to jump in the transfer portal and be enticed with some NIL dollars, but they're looking to do something special at Illinois with having so many returning starters, and it's always good to have your quarterback returning for his second year in that offense, and he's already at 6 passing touchdowns and no interceptions. This is the same guy we saw last year, efficient and taking care of the football.
And Bielema feels like perhaps he's got a Big Ten championship team, and a large reason for that is just how good of a veteran quarterback he has. He's putting on numbers, 6 touchdowns, 0 picks. So Altmyer, the veteran, taking care of the football. Top SEC performers, you got to talk about Ty Simpson. First half, 17 of 17. That's an Alabama record in terms of consecutive completions in their history to start a football game. He was perfect on Saturday.
He was absolutely perfect, doing everything the right way, and I admired his use of mechanics. Sometimes when you have a tough outing, the easy thing to go out to do the next week is to, have a good performance, but you don't pay attention to the little things. He was absolutely perfect in the pocket. He was poised, confident, and was trying to look to make a statement to try and erase bad things that happened last week. Look, last week versus the Seminoles, he was roughly 50-something% efficient, didn't throw any interceptions, but really didn't do anything to really help his team. Today, he practiced getting the ball to those weapons, the guys in this offense, minus Ryan Williams, right? Doesn't matter. Not always going to have everyone healthy in your offense, but a masterful performance, trying to get back on track for the Crimson Tide.
Hammering Louisiana Monroe with a final of 73-0. And you talk about more than 10 receivers caught a ball in this game. An opportunity to get right after that Florida State loss and what has been a tumultuous week, obviously, for that team and especially their head coach, Kalen DeBoer. Big picture, can Ty Simpson be the type of guy that Alabama needs him to be and Kalen DeBoer needs him to be?
We need to see him be that special in big games. We need to see him be that special when his team is struggling. We need to see him be that special against a quality opponent. I mean, I don't know, what way to best put it, but football is the ultimate team sport where, yes, you can make a profound difference as a player on the team, but the quarterback person who touches the ball every play has the most impact on whether you win or lose. So, yes, we need to see him against a better sample size, a better opponent. But, man, if he can keep playing and leading this team, that is going to be the difference between them winning and losing down the road. All
right. They are home against Wisconsin next week, and then an absolute battle on the road against Georgia the following Saturday after that. Stay in the SEC. There's a lot to love about Marcel Reed, especially the job he did here on Saturday in week 2.
Man, do not sleep on Marcel Reed and Texas A&M in this offense. People were saying that, they don't know what kind of a passer he is, what kind of a leader he is, what kind of a, facilitator of this offense. But what I saw today, man, he's been dynamite. Moving the launch point, buying himself a little time, throwing dimes in the back end. And I think that the thing that I really like about his dynamic as quarterback for the Aggies is his teammates trust him. Okay, everyone around him is rallying and feeding off of what he's doing well. When he gets busy back in the pocket and he looks to extend the play with his legs, he keeps his eyes downfield. And his receivers, they come alive. So these guys are getting open. They know what kind of quarterback they have, and they believe they have a chance to win as long as number 6 has got the ball in his hands. So I'm a fan of Marcel Reed. I think that they can win. I think you're making a mistake if you overlook this team coached by Mike Elko, good on both sides of the line of scrimmage, and the quarterback's good enough.
They hammered Utah State 44-22. Marcel Reed on Saturday, 19-28, 220, and 3 touchdowns. All right, Sawyer Robertson for Baylor. First guy since RG3. They're the only 2 in Baylor history to have 3 straight 400-plus yard passing games. He was awesome in the overtime victory against SMU.
I mean, you take this back to last week, that second straight 400-plus yard game versus Auburn. I know they didn't come out with the win, but the way they battled back, this is the type of play caller you're going to need in the Big 12. Not a lot of defense, but you're going to need to be able to put up a lot of points. And I think they got the right guy behind center clearly to be able to do so.
I think this team now has an opportunity to play more complementary football. Dave Aranda is known for having good defenses. Now this defense needs to look at the performance that their quarterback is turning in, realize that they're a team that can score points. So they need to get up off their butts on defense and rally around what Sawyer Robertson is putting down, especially on the offensive end.
Blake Corvath, meantime, for Navy here on CBS Sports Network. Another great performance. 3 total touchdowns, threw for 168. Obviously, they ran the ball well against UAB, as they always do. They had to deal with a couple of long weather delays. It was not ideal, but in the end, man, the way he is running this offense, high hopes for the Navy midshipmen after a great year last year.
Blake Corvath is going to go down as one of the greatest Navy quarterbacks they have ever went through that program because of some of the numbers like this. We talk about him not just as great in the run game, and the efficiency in the pass game. Already through 2 games, completing 80% of his passes. And we're not talking about the dinks and dunks. He's taking shots. And when you're able to run the ball as efficient as Navy is, we saw a few times where it was a few midshipmen wide open down the field, and he was just making it look so easy back there. So we're going to look up in a few weeks, and they're going to be making a run for potentially, have those early conversations about who's going to be that college football playoff 12th spot.
That's it. Look, at one point in this game, I think there were 6 drives and there were 6 touchdowns, right? But at one point I looked up, Navy actually had more yards passing than they did rushing. Yeah. Never see that for a Navy team that features the triple option, but that just goes to show you the job that the offensive coordinator, Drew Cronick, and Blake Corvath, and Eli Heidenreich, and Alex Teska, that Navy offense, what they've put down on paper this year, nothing short of amazing.
Could be a special season. Tremendous day of college football, tremendous day for Navy and Army as well. For now, so long from Studio 44 at the CBS Broadcast Center.